I had driven 6 hours through the desert just to place courtside tickets to the Los Angeles Lakers finals in front of my dad for his birthday. I imagined the moment for weeks, him smiling, maybe even proud for once. Instead, halfway through dinner, he lifted his glass. "To my lucky son," he said, smirking toward the relatives gathered around the table. Still a bit of a disappointment, but at least he's generous. The room filled with polite laughter. The kind people use when they know something cruel has just happened, but no one wants to stop it. I felt the heat crawl up my neck. In front of him sat the envelope, the black one with the gold lettering from the Los Angeles Lakers ticket office. 2 courtside seats, Game 1 of the NBA Finals, the kind of seats fans wait a lifetime to touch. He hadn't even opened it yet. My father leaned back in his chair, satisfied with the joke. And that's when I realized something. This gift wasn't for him anymore. People usually assume that moment at dinner was the first time. My father had called me a disappointment. It wasn't. It was just the first time he did it while holding something. I had sacrificed 6 hours of driving and several months of savings to give him. My dad had always been the kind of man who believed respect should move upward, never downward. Parents deserved it. Older siblings earned it. Younger sons like me were expected to prove they were worth it. My brother Daniel never had that problem. Daniel had the confidence, the easy smile, the kind of personality that made people laugh before he even finished a sentence. My father loved that. He treated Daniel like a reflection of himself. Me, I was the quiet one, the one who fixed things, the one who showed up early and stayed late, and rarely said anything. When my effort disappeared into the background, birthdays, holidays, family dinners, they all followed the same script. Daniel told stories. Dad laughed. And somewhere along the line, a joke would land in my direction. Still figuring life out, huh? I'd smile politely every time. But that night, sitting across from him with those Los Angeles Lakers finals tickets between us, something finally felt different. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one about to be embarrassed. Dinner kept moving as if nothing had happened, but the air around the table had shifted in a way only I seemed to notice. My father finally slid the envelope open. The gold lettering caught the light from the chandelier as he pulled out the tickets. Courtside seats to the NBA, finals to watch the Los Angeles Lakers. For a moment, real surprise crossed his face. "Well, look at that," he said, holding them up so the table could see. Guess the boy finally did something right. A few people chuckled again. My aunt reached over to look at the tickets. "Courtside? These must have cost a fortune." Dad shrugged, leaning back in his chair like the moment belonged to him. "Probably blew his savings," he said casually. Always was a bit impulsive. Daniel leaned forward, studying the tickets with interest. "Game 1, he whistled. "You're taking me, right, Dad?" The question hung in the air for half a second. My father didn't even glance at me. "Of course," he said smoothly. "Wouldn't want to waste seats like these on someone who doesn't even understand basketball." Another quiet wave of laughter moved around the table. I picked up my glass, letting the silence stretch, just long enough for everyone to think the joke had landed. But inside, something colder than anger had already begun to settle. I watched my father slide the tickets back into the envelope, like they already belonged to him, like the decision had already been made. Daniel leaned back in his chair, smiling the relaxed smile of someone who never had to ask twice for anything. The rest of the table drifted back into conversation, forks against plates, glasses clinking softly. To them, the moment had already passed. But to me, it had sharpened. I realized something simple sitting there. My father hadn't insulted me because he was angry. He hadn't even done it because he meant harm. He did it because he expected I would accept it. Because I always had. For 32 years, I'd played the quiet role in this family. The dependable one. The one who showed up with gifts, with help, with patience. And every time, the reward was the same small smile from my father that meant you tried. But not quite. I looked at the envelope again, the black paper, the gold lettering from the Los Angeles Lakers ticket office, the 2 seats for the NBA Finals. 6 hours of driving, months of planning, all handed over to a man who had just turned it into a punchline. That was when the realization finally settled in. I didn't need to argue. I just needed to stop giving him the ending he expected. I didn't react that night. That was the first step. People expect anger when they cross a line. Anger gives them something to defend against. Silence, on the other hand, makes them comfortable. It convinces them the moment is over. So I smiled, finished dinner, and even helped clear the plates. My father tucked the envelope into his jacket pocket like the night had gone exactly as planned. But those tickets weren't actually his. They were still under my name. purchased directly through the official portal for the NBA ticketing system for the Los Angeles Lakers finals. Digital ownership mattered more than the paper in that envelope. The barcode linked to my account, my ID, my phone. Courtside seats at that level required verification at check-in. I knew that because I had spent weeks researching before buying them. The next morning, I opened my laptop with a cup of coffee and logged into my account. The ticket sat there quietly under my events. Transferable, revocable, replaceable. I stared at the screen for a moment, remembering my father's toast. Still a bit of a disappointment. Then I clicked cancel transfer and replaced the tickets with 2 new digital passes. Not for my father, for someone who would actually appreciate them. Game night arrived a week later. Outside the arena, thousands of fans moved through the bright plaza toward the doors, the energy building for Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Gold jerseys flashed under the lights, and the massive screens outside replayed highlights of the Los Angeles Lakers warming up inside. I stood a little off to the side with my phone in my pocket, watching the entrance lines. Right on schedule, my father and Daniel appeared near the VIP gate. Dad was dressed like the night already belonged to him. Lakers cap, pressed shirt, the envelope tucked under his arm. Daniel walked beside him, grinning as he pointed toward the arena. They handed the printed tickets to the attendant. The scanner beeped. Once, then again. The attendant frowned slightly and tried the second ticket. Another soft error tone. Dad's confident smile stiffened. I could see the brief confusion as the attendant leaned closer to explain something quietly. My father pulled out his phone, probably expecting a quick fix. Instead, the attendant simply shook his head. Invalid entry. Across the plaza, my own phone buzzed as the digital tickets were scanned. Successfully, 2 courtside. Seats under my account. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and followed the usher inside. For once, the silence between us felt perfectly balanced. I didn't hear from my father that night, not during halftime, not after the final buzzer echoed through the arena while the crowd roared around the court where the Los Angeles Lakers fought through Game 1 of the NBA Finals. My phone stayed quiet in my pocket the entire evening. The first message came the next morning. 3 words from my father. What happened yesterday? No accusation, just confusion. Daniel called later that afternoon. His tone carried the same disbelief. I'd heard my whole life whenever something didn't go their way. Dad said the tickets didn't work, he said. Did you buy fake ones or something? I could picture them standing outside the arena the night before, my father arguing calmly with the attendant. Daniel checking the envelope again and again like the paper itself had betrayed them. I didn't buy fake tickets, I told him. A long pause followed, because suddenly the obvious possibility was sitting there between us. For the first time in years, the situation wasn't something they could laugh off at a dinner table. Family members started asking questions. My aunt texted. Even my mom called. And the strange part wasn't the silence afterward. It was realizing how quickly respect appears. When people finally understand, you're capable of drawing a line. A few days later, my father finally called. Not to apologize. That would have required a kind of self-reflection he'd never really practiced. Instead, he asked the question carefully, the way people do when they're not sure where the balance of power stands anymore. So, what exactly happened with those tickets? I let the silence sit between us for a moment. Then I answered honestly. I realized something that night at dinner, I said. If someone thinks you're a disappointment, the smartest thing you can do is stop trying to impress them. He didn't respond right away. For the first time in my life, the conversation felt even, not tense, not angry, just quiet. Since then, family dinners have changed in small ways. The jokes aimed in my direction stopped appearing quite so easily. Daniel doesn't assume things the way he used to. And my father, well, he listens a little more than he talks. Not because I argued, because I didn't. The truth is, the tickets were never the important part. Not even the night I spent watching the Los Angeles Lakers play in the NBA Finals. What mattered was something much simpler. The moment I finally stopped auditioning for someone else's approval and started choosing my own seat.